the law. So here you, and that whole period, the 30s, is a very interesting time. I have people tell me that we didn't have these drug problems. You know, this is from the 60s. It's all you hippies, you baby boomer hippies that started this whole drug problem in the 60s. And we didn't have these drugs. Well, you got to think to yourself, if there was no drug problem in the 30s, why did they make Reefer Madness? Right. Why did they make a movie about marijuana? And by the way, let's not forget that there was always also a movie made, the same kind of movie made about cocaine and heroin in the 30s. Now, I got to believe that there was either a drug problem in the 30s, or those people that made those movies said, you know, the boomers are going to be coming along, and they're going to have a drug problem in the 60s. Let's make some movies so they got something to watch.
Yeah, the Midnight Madness
if you
show
believe that, you're smoking something better than I have, but the reality is that this has always been a problem. It's just that we overblow it. This is done for political purposes. It's done to get people elected to office because they're going to be tough on drugs. They hang up these pretty signs, and they irritate me every time I see one. Drug-free school zone. Isn't that a wonderful sign when you see that? Doesn't that make you feel warm?
I went looking, there were no free drugs.
School zone. Well, what kills me about it is, as I said in the other segment last week, we don't have a drug-free prison in America, and I'm supposed to believe that that school is drug-free. But
well,
again,
if you don't count Ritalin.
Well, yeah, exactly. The drugs that we're forcing on the kids. And the thing that kills me about it is it's such a classic example of the whole drug war. It doesn't make any difference if it's true or not. That isn't the point. It's if it makes us feel good or not. You know, does it make us feel good to put the sign up, oh, okay, we did something. But it doesn't accomplish anything. And the kids, you know, it's kind of like the old, and I say this distinctly because I'm not as upset with the DARE program now as I used to be. I still ain't happy about it, but I'm not as upset with it as I used to be. What I used to call it, and that's all it used to be, was the SCARE program. Because they tell your kids sitting in school that marijuana makes you stupid, lazy, unproductive. And then the kids walk out of school, and they go behind the school, and they see stupid, lazy, unproductive kids smoking marijuana. And then they walk a couple more feet, and they see people that are on the honor roll, people that are stars of the football team, and people that are really productive smoking marijuana. And then they say, well, you lied to us about that. You probably lied to us about crack, too, so I think I'll try some of that. We have to be honest with our kids about this stuff. We have to train them. Little interesting side note. I do a lot of Rotary clubs. Rotary clubs do a lot of foreign exchange student work. So there have been 10 incidents where I've asked this question because I have to have everything just perfect in order to ask the question. I have to be at a Rotary club where there's a foreign exchange student from a Western European country. Italy, Spain, Portugal, Germany, France, whatever. When I run into that circumstance, I ask those people, and I've done it 10 times, when you first came to America, what is the oddest thing that you observed about your peers?
Interesting.
The other high school seniors. And I've gotten 7 times out of 10 times, I've gotten this answer. The way they drink. The way they drink. Not that they drink. The way that they drink. These kids come from a culture over in Europe where a lot of these countries don't even have a drinking age. They've been drinking wine mixed with beer at dinner. They've been taught a culture around the use of this drug, and they've been taught to use it responsibly. And then they come over here and meet our kids, 17, 18-year-old kids, who all they're talking about is going out Friday night to get blitzed. Not to go out and have a couple drinks at the party, but to go out with the intent purpose of getting hammered, to getting as stinko drunk as they can get. And these kids from Europe don't understand this because they never do that at home. You know, if they're going to go out and drink, they have a designated driver, they drink responsibly, they don't get drunk. And so this is the kind of culture we create. A good friend of mine said many years ago that the problem with America is the Puritans. Yeah. When they left England, if they had gone west or if they had gone east instead of west, they would have landed on the shores of Belgium or France, and they would have been told, either make peace with your morality or stay on the boat. Instead, they came over here, and nobody warned the people that were here that they were coming. And when they got here, what's the first thing that they did? Build universities of great learning? No. They built donkey stools and pillories and used punishment to get observance and burned witches at the stake. This is the legacy that we're left with, and we still have people that think that all you got to do is pass a law and everything's going to be okay. It's absurd. But here we are.
Well, the drug war is the biggest witch hunt in the history of
Absolutely.
America.
Absolutely.
And it has just as many victims. There's a book out there, Shattered Lives, that chronicles how many victims there are. And for example, on the last segment, you talked about 9/11 and the Taliban and the airplanes flying in. Well, 9/11, Zippy's got the shirt, Investigate 9/11 right here. 9/11 was a tragedy, and there's no doubting it. But it hid a larger embarrassment in our country just because of the timing of it, because just before 9/11, there was Rainbow Farms. And for people that don't know what Rainbow Farms was, back in 2001, just before the planes hit, there were these two guys, Tom Grover Crosland and Raleigh Rahm. They owned a huge campground. It was out in Michigan. They had the Hemp Fest, the Roach Rose, Tommy Chong played there. They had incredible talent there, and it was a peaceful place for people to come and be. And they were also the largest marijuana activists in Michigan.
They kept having gigs, investing in it, putting buildings on there and making a beautiful place.
It was a beautiful campground. It was a haven. They had the best laundromat and general store in the area. Also, I want to say that these guys they worked well in their community. They worked for charities in their community, and their good nature was what got them killed. That's right, I said killed. Because what happened, like with Al Capone with the taxes, they came in on a tax warrant because Tom and Raleigh, if, say, Willie was going through town and he needed to work a couple of days to get a couple of bucks to get some food, they'd pay him off the books. This is against the law, people. You can go to jail. They used a tax warrant to come in on Tom and Raleigh. They found a small grow operation that they were growing their own marijuana for their own personal use in their farmhouse. They put forfeiture on the entire campground. They took Raleigh Rahm's son out of school. The boy was about 13 years old when this happened. Just took him right out of school and took him away from him. They put injunctions in to stop Tom and Raleigh from having any festivals, and Tom and Raleigh needed the money from the festivals to get lawyers to defend their land. They decided the government was not going to take their land. Okay? Now, the government, state and local, working in conjunction, came in and cordoned off the campground the weekend they were going to have their festival. They stopped thousands of people from going in. Anybody that was within 10 miles of Rainbow Farms that lived there was escorted off their property for their own safety at gunpoint by the police. After a 4-day standoff, the police went in. They sent the trees. They shot Tom Grover Crosland. They put 7 rounds of full steel-jacketed artillery through his body. They blew his brain out of his head. Playboy, October 2003, did a long expose on this and published the death photo. They also, the next day, shot and killed Raleigh Rahm, who had made arrangements to give himself up. He just wanted to see his son, and his son was walking down the dirt road to the campground when he heard the shots ring out that killed his father. The book, Burning Rainbow Farms, has come out this last year, is available. I highly recommend it. Even though I haven't read it yet, I'm waiting for my copy to come. I got it off eBay. Okay, but really check it out. Check out the Playboy article and ask yourself, do you want people shot and killed for advocating legally changing the laws? I don't think so.
Folks, on this program, Stop Bitchin', Start a Revolution, we encourage you to educate yourself and those around you so you don't have to tolerate those politicians out there which you don't tolerate in your family and friends. A little bit further back in the program, we were talking about the Harrison Act, the Marijuana Tax Act. What the Marijuana Tax Act did, folks, is it wiped out the hemp industry. It was in its fledgling years. Back then, in Popular Mechanics in 1938, Popular Mechanics had figured out, that there had finally been a way developed, the decorticator. It was a way to harvest out of the cannabis stem stalks the fibers that were necessary to use for the industrial purposes. Well, that product, the decorticator, was made the machine for harvesting the byproduct out of the hemp stalk. At the same time, you had DuPont, which is petrochemical industry. So you had basically a war going back on in the 30s on how the future of this country was going to be led, as far as was it going to be a petrochemical-based country or a carbohydrate-based country, as far as what the products that we would be making and what would be deriving the basis for the products. Now, marijuana, hemp, cannabis can produce over 25,000 products at this time. Any entrepreneur out there wakes up to what goes on and all the different products that are out there. There isn't anything that the marijuana, cannabis, hemp plant can't provide us for our basic needs.
There's another interesting aspect to that whole thing. We passed the marijuana stamp tax. They went after marijuana. They just started destroying hemp fields all over America. They burned them all down. And the big push was on, okay? And everything you said is absolutely true. With DuPont synthetic fiber, they were pouring money into this thing to destroy hemp. By the way, our Constitution is printed on
Thank you
hemp
for saying
paper,
so.
okay?